Sounds good.
So welcome everyone to the Kīpaepae Foundations. Topic 1, Introduction to the Hawaiian Protocol. Today with us is Luana Kawaʻa and as well as Hōkūlani Holt to lead us through the Kīpaepae Foundations. Thank you both for being here today.
Mahalo, Joyce. Thank you so much for coordinating all of this and all of your kokua in making this possible. So Hoku and I are both very grateful to be able to start this series. It's been a long work in the making, I guess, a project in the making for quite some time now. We've been meeting at the system level as well as on our campus to see how we can, expand the ka'au framework and bring in this concept of Kīpaepae. So we're very excited that we're finally able to share some of that with you folks this afternoon. So mahalo nui to all of you for joining us. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you feel welcomed, and know that this is a safe place for all of us. And it doesn't matter what level of ike we come with. We are going to start with the basic foundations and we're going to grow from there together. So thank you again, mahalo nui. So I'm going to actually go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see our presentation today. And I'm thinking that we could also make this presentation available if people want a copy of the slides to be able to view the slides later. We could do that as well. We can share that. I think Joyce, we shared it with you. So if that is something that people would like to have a copy of the slides, I think we're more than happy to do that. Yeah, Hoku.
Absolutely, not a problem. We'll go ahead and turn it into PDFs and we'll share it with Joyce, and then she can share it along with the recording when she's ready.
Yeah, perfect. Sometimes, I know for me, sometimes it's helpful to go back and look at the slides and it'll kind of jog my memory, remind me of things that I wanted to follow up on. So Kīpaepae Foundations, as Joyce said, this is the very first topic. It's a series of 6 different topics that we're going to be sharing, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for all 6. However, it's not necessarily sequential. I mean, it sort of is, but you can still jump in. If you missed one, you can still jump in on the next one. So again, we want to make sure that it's available for everyone. Here's our papahana, our agenda for today. So we'll briefly introduce ourselves, Hoku and I. We're going to talk about the definition of protocol in general. Then we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about Hawaiian protocol and what makes Hawaiian protocol Hawaiian. And then we're going to bring it closer to home, Kīpaepae at UH Maui College. What does that look like? What does that involve? And then extend an invitation to each of you, how you can be a part of this. And then we'll have some time for question and answer at the end as well. So I'll start with a brief introduction. If you don't know me, my name is Luana Kawaʻa, and at the college, I'm the director of the TRIO Student Support Services called Paikamana. I also am a part-time lecturer, so I teach the hula classes, hula ʻōlapa, which is the kahiko courses, as well as hula ʻauana, and I also teach the Hawaiian 104 course, language through hula. I'm a kumu hula and had the privilege to study under Hōkūlani Holt and Uniki under her as a kumu hula. And the best job I have is being mom to 4 grown adult children and tutu to 1 mo'opuna. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm going to turn it over to Hoku.
Aloha. I'm Hōkūlani. I think I know many of you on this, but there's some that are new to me. So I am currently the director of Hikina, which is a scholarship program for Native Hawaiian students interested in getting degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math. as well as Hawaiian Studies and Hawaiian language. I am also, I bunch of things on this campus. Among them is I'm currently working on a grant to bring Hawaiian cultural activities and classes more to our campus. I am also a kumu hula. I've had the halau Pāʻū O Hiʻiaka for 45 years now. I was 2 when I started the halau. And so I've had the halau for 45 years now. And okay, Luana, put your hands up like this. No, like this. We got to show them that we have makaku on. You and I have makaku on. Yeah, what's the likelihood of that, right? What's the likelihood that we both stood in front of our closet and decided to wear makaku creations today? So if you don't know what makaku creations are, you should go online, run by another kumu hula kamakaku kona. Anyway, when I saw you wear that, I went, oh, what's the likelihood of both of us choosing the same designer to wear today? So we're bringing Maui to the table. Next slide, please. So what is the definition of protocol? Why does protocol exist? Well, protocol exists everywhere and in all cultures, whether it is formal or informal. It is specific to time, place, and people involved. It often defines respect for the action or those receiving the action. So some of the official, you look it up on well, you know, in the old days, you look it up in the dictionary. Now everybody go online, you go and search and look up the definition for protocol. Among them, it's the official procedure or system of rules governing affairs of state or diplomatic occasions. The most common meaning of protocol is a system of rules that explains the correct conduct and procedures to be followed in formal situations, such as the president has a protocol officer. If you didn't know that now, that the president of the United States has a protocol officer, which is supposed to keep him from putting his foot in his mouth and making bad choices on how to behave with other cultures, other heads of state, and in other situations. Sometimes work, sometimes don't work. A protocol defines a set of procedures or steps to be followed for the accomplishment of a given task. You know, there are medical protocols, there are, oh, I see Deanna, there are protocols for IT, there are protocols, certain procedures or steps to be followed for the accomplishment of a given task. Procedures are task-oriented. Procedures provide step-to-step instructions on how to do a task. For example, Kīpaepae protocol will follow certain behaviors and actions. Okay, so it's what you do for an outcome. In general, the word protocol is used to refer to an official plan or set of guidelines to be followed in certain situations. So that is the Western, because we're using Western words, we're using Hale words, we're using protocol, which is a Hale word, an English word. And so these definitions come out of the definition for that. And as we go along, you'll see that perhaps the English words that you might be familiar with may not function the same way when you think about Hawaiian things. Okay, next, Luana.
Mahalo hoku, thank you. So again, we're starting kind of at that broad level, right? And just looking at protocol in general and what does that mean? And Hoku gave us some great examples. I love the example about our Pelekikena, our president, having a protocol officer. And I'll share with you that when I first started working at Kamehameha schools, this was back in 2010, the position I got was protocol officer. That was my exact title. And my kuleana at the time was to do that for the headmaster, who was unfamiliar with Hawaiian culture, with Hawaiian protocols. And so it's interesting that that was actually one of my job titles. And when I first, saw this job title, I was like, Hawaiian protocol officer, what does that mean? But what Hoku explained is exactly what I had to do for the headmaster. And eventually that position evolved over time. But interesting that at one time, even the headmaster of Kamehameha schools needed someone to help with that, right? To ensure that we act appropriately. So what is Hawaiian protocol, right? So what makes protocol Hawaiian? We're going to talk a little bit about a few concepts that we use in Hawaiian protocol that makes it uniquely Hawaiian. Again, we'll probably find many parallels in other cultures as well. Your own cultures that you come from as well, you'll probably be able to find parallels and make connections. But these are some of the things that are distinct in Hawaiian protocol. So the first is the word lawena. So lawena is kind of what Hoku ended on. It's how we act. It's our behaviors. It is the way that we interact with each other. Some of the lawena that come to my mind are things like when we're in each other's presence, makealo a healo, right? Face to face. When we're speaking, we don't put our hands behind our backs. Yeah, the hands are never hidden because in Hawaiian mana'o, the idea is what you're doing with your hands behind your back. How come like we see your hands, right? And in traditional times, there was lots of power in our hands, right? There were things that could be done, spells that could be cast perhaps, right? And so showing the hands, having the hands seen was very important in our lawena. So these are, again, those behaviors and those interactions. We can even look at the word lawena as being the customs. Many of us have grown up with these customs and we just don't know or don't make the connection that this is rooted in our culture, right? So some of the other things, I remember growing up and being told, don't whistle at night, but not told why. Yeah, how many of you was told don't whistle at night? Yeah, or don't sweep at night. That was the other thing, like never sweep at night. And I was like, okay, and I obeyed, I was obedient, right? But I didn't understand why. And it was later as I began to study our culture and learn about Hawaiian culture that I came to understand the reasons behind it. So many of these traditions and these customs that we do, we don't know why we do them, right? And all we need to do is find out. And then it just opens this whole other worldview, right? And we can see the world through the eyes of our kupuna, the way that our ancestors viewed the world. And the ike that we gain in understanding why we do these things is really important as well. So what are some of these lawena? Well, first, I want to talk about hoʻokipa. So what does hoʻokipa mean? Well, we have a building on our campus called hoʻokipa, right? Hoʻokipa translates as welcome, to entertain, hospitality, to treat hospitably. Okay, that's some of the definitions of the word hoʻokipa. So when we hoʻokipa with a group of people or even with one other person, there are some ways in which we do that, right? There are ways in which we show that we're hospitable. Yeah, so maybe we're thinking, what are some ways that we show our hospitality when someone comes to our hale? We feed them, right? When we want to show our aloha, show our love for someone, we feed them. And it doesn't matter if they just ate, they're going to eat again, right? Because that's one of the ways in which we hoʻokipa, that we entertain, we welcome people into our home. So
Wait, Luana. Okay,
Yeah.
and so Luana and I decided that we would just talk over each other and jump in when something pops into our head.
absolutely.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about hoʻokipa, because in Hawaiian culture, there's two parts of hoʻokipa, and in every culture, there are two parts of hoʻokipa, the giver and the receiver. And you both have kuleana. You both have responsibility to the interaction. And when she said, oh yeah, you're taken to eat, even if you ate already, you got to eat again, because that's your half as the receiver. Your half of the receiver of the hoʻokipa is you eat. Yeah, even if you just finish eating and you come to the house and they say, come, we're eating, come sit down and eat. You sit and you have something, because that's your half of the reciprocation that happens when you hoʻokipa. We don't go, oh, no, I ate already. Well, you might say that, but then the mother of the house will go, that's okay, come eat again. And then that's your signal to know, okie dokie, and you go sit down and you eat again. So there are two parts of this behavior, of this lawena. And we also have to know both parts. Yeah. Okay, Luana.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that was a perfect example of that reciprocation, right? That both parties have kuleana. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so what are some other ways that we hoʻokipa, right? There is protocol when we are going to someone's house, right? So protocol can be as simple as, hui, right? Before you walk up to somebody's door, because you don't know what's going on the inside of the hale, right? What's happening, if they're makoko, if they're ready for this visit or not. But just starting out with hui, calling out like that. That is part of our protocol. It is a way to announce our arrival, right? So that those that are going to greet us, right? The hosts of that home or that place can ho'omakoko. They can make ready. They can get themselves ready to be able to ho'okipa us in a way that is important to them, right? So that hui, before you go someone's door, or even the knocking, right? Knocking on the door. We're not going to just open the door and walk in, or we're not. I mean, for me, I wouldn't even walk up to the door. I would be from the end of the driveway. Hui, you guys home? It's Luana, right? Kind of announcing that arrival. And that comes from a more formal part of protocol, which we call the oli kahea and the oli komo, right? So the oli kahea is when it's the chant that is done to call out, to ask permission to enter. That hui comes from that, right? Making sure that we announce that we're seeking permission, so that we not mahaoi, right? So that we not intrusive, so that we don't come across as niele, right? Being maybe a little bit nosy, perhaps. So all of that we want to avoid, because we want to make a good connection. We want to create good pilina from the get-go. That relationship, that pilina from the start, we want it to be pono. So these are the kinds of lawena, the kinds of behaviors that we engage in. The oli kahea, calling out to seek permission to enter, and you wait until you hear the oli komo, which is the chant that is done that allows you or grants you permission to enter, whether that is a halau hula, a place of learning hula, whether that's someone's home, whether that is our college, a classroom, whatever the context is that we are in, there is this protocol that is done, asking permission, then being granted permission. And again, as simple as the hui, and then, oh, has it come inside, to the more formal oli kahea and oli komo. Now, I also want to talk about two words, malihini and kama'aina, right? So malihini often is used when we talk about tourists. right, that are visitors that are coming here. We refer to them as malihini, but we can be malihini. And Hoku and I were having this great conversation about, even though we live here, we from here, you know, we're part of this aina. In certain contexts, we can be malihini. If I'm coming to your house for the first time, I'm a malihini. Okay, so let's look at the translation of the word malihini. It can mean foreigner, guest, newcomer, right? So there are all times where we will be the malihini, right? Even though we're from this place, there are times where we are malihini. We're going to a place for the first time. We're participating in an event for the first time. We're malihini. Now, kama'aina, on the other hand, means familiar. And this can also mean host, right? So you have the malihini, you have the guest, the newcomer, you have the kama'aina, the person who's familiar, who is ma'a with that place, and who is the host. So there are these two roles, right? And malihini, again, all of us will play that role at certain times. Now, when we talk about Kīpaepae at our college, we become the kama'aina, right? We're the kama'aina at the college. We work there. It is where we have relationships there, right? It's kind of an extended ohana there. So in this context, when we talk a little bit more about Kīpaepae on our campus, we serve as the kama'aina who are going to ho'okipa the guests who are coming.
Okay, I want to jump in for a moment.
Hikino.
Okay, so the term kama'aina, and this is all my ka'i. And for any of you who might study Hawaiian, ʻŌlelo Hawaiian stories or Hawaiian chants, sometimes you will see Pele is described as a malihini. So you might think, what? She made these islands. How can she be a malihini? Well, in the stories, if she's described as the malihini, you have to think her lava goes to some place for the first time. Yeah, for the first time, she goes somewhere. So for the first time means she is malihini because she has never been there before. The lava has not traveled there before. It has not created this piece of land before. So she is the malihini to this place. Kama'aina literally means child of the land. And I like to think of it like, you know, child of the land says to me that you know this land like you know the face and the voice and the smell of your mother. Yeah, you know it so well that you are the child of this place, that you know this place so well, just like you are the child of your mother, and you know her face, her sound, her smell, her laughter. To be a kama'aina, you know the same thing about the aina that you come from. So that is always a challenge for all of us, me as well, how to be better and better at knowing this place that I am from. Okay.
Mai ka'i, that's a beautiful example. Yeah, mahalo hoku. So ultimately, when we are engaging in Hawaiian protocol, this is a welcoming that transforms our guests into family. And I love that, right? When we think about that, what's the purpose of doing protocol, and particularly Hawaiian protocol? We want to now bring this guest and transform them into being part of our ohana. That's the ultimate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the components of Hawaiian protocol. So we have three things that you see on the screen: oli, haʻi ʻōlelo, introduction of people and place. So let me talk first about oli. So oli is the Hawaiian word for chant. Notice there's no okina in front of the word oli. The okina in front of the word oli changes it, and now it means happy or joyful. Okay. Now, when we oli, we should be happy and joyful, probably. But we don't want to put the okina there. We want to make sure we don't have an okina there when we're talking specifically about the word chant or to chant. So chanting oli was a very common practice in our culture. It has become much more commonplace today, there was a period of time where there were very few chanters, right? And that has since changed. But in traditional times, this was part of all of our interaction and very important in the process of hoʻokipa and the process of protocol. So oli is a definite basic component of Hawaiian protocol that needs to be there, needs to be present. Why? Because we use the power of our voice. We know in Hawaiian culture, he mana ko ka leo, the voice has power, spiritual power, right? It has the ability to manifest things, right? So we know how powerful the voice is. So we use the voice in the form of oli to welcome and to begin to build this pilina or this relationship with the malihini, with the newcomers, with the guests, the visitors. Now, we can use the voice to introduce ourselves. We can use the voice, the oli voice, to welcome, depending on the chant that we select, right? So we could choose a welcoming chant. We could choose a chant that is genealogical, that talks about those who came before us from this place. Various ways that we can use oli, but oli is definitely one of the basic components that need to be part of Hawaiian protocol, which means that in the next couple of sessions, we're going to learn oli. So I'm really excited about that and hope you'll join us for that. Now, the second component that is important in protocol is Haʻi ʻŌlelo. And Haʻi ʻŌlelo literally is like the speech. It's the speaking part where we start, we pāʻū chant, and now we're going to Haʻi ʻŌlelo. And there are both formal and informal forms of Haʻi ʻŌlelo. In a Haʻi ʻŌlelo, we do things like moʻokuʻauhau, perhaps, reciting a moʻokuʻauhau, saying who we are, who we come from. Or we could simply just introduce ourselves at that point after the oli. I'm Luana Kawaʻa, like I did at the beginning, right? And what I do here at the college. Hōkū introduced herself at the beginning. Could be something as simple as that. Maybe introducing someone is the alakaʻi is the lead that then introduces the group that gathered for this kīpaepae, right? And the malihini also has kuleana here, right? Now, let's before we go into the malihini and their kuleana, let's talk about our kuleana. Some other things that we can include in a Haʻi ʻŌlelo are things like an ʻōlelo noʻeau, a Hawaiian proverb that will help to, again, build the relationship. The proverb might be about the place where we're gathered. The proverb could be about the event that we're going to participate in. If they're coming and then we're going to have a meeting together, the ʻōlelo noʻeau could be the words we want to speak to manifest a fruitful meeting, right? A meeting that flows nicely, where mana'o is shared. Whatever you could think about the purpose and the function, the outcome that you want to have, and choose an ʻōlelo noʻeau to include in your Haʻi ʻŌlelo. Some other things in the Haʻi ʻŌlelo, and this would be an extension of the Haʻi ʻŌlelo now when we talk about introduction of people and place. This becomes an extension of that Haʻi ʻŌlelo. So some of the things that I think is important is to introduce the malihini to our place, to our wahi. So this is where we might use wahipana or storied places. So if I were choosing to share with malihini at our campus, I would choose specific places that are important that surround our campus, right? So yes, we could talk about the campus specifically, but we also want to acknowledge those places that are around us. So I would talk about Nawaiʻeha, that our campus is part of the larger moku of Wailuku, which is part of Nawaiʻeha, the 4 famous waters of Maui. I could talk about Iao, because Iao is a significant storied place, a significant wahipana, where the bones of the highest ranking ali'i are interred, which then gives mana to this place. I would talk about perhaps Kaihuwa'a, which is a new name that I'm learning about, which is the area in front of Kahului Harbor, which was known as Kaihuwa'a. I may introduce them to that. I may even introduce them to Kanaha and Maoni, because this is all part of our moku, right? Kanaha pond, also the twin ponds of Kanaha and Maoni, and talk a little bit about that history. So not just the place where we're standing and doing the protocol, but also those surrounding areas that ho'ohanohano, that bring pride to our district, yeah, to the place that we come from. So these are some of the things that I would choose to share. We can also, oh, okay, I think I just lost. Did I just stop sharing?
Oops.
Yeah, okay.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but our Google slide vanished for a minute there. So I'm gonna pull it back up.
So
Okay.
I'll just while she's manipulating.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sometimes now I know in the university system they do this, and in other places throughout the world they do what they call land acknowledgements. Yeah, land acknowledgements acknowledges the place that you are. That can be part of a haʻi ʻōlelo when you're doing a kīpaepae, a welcoming, an introduction, because often in these land acknowledgements, it does just that. It acknowledges this place that they are speaking about. So, if you don't know what land acknowledgements are all about, look it up in a gajillion examples online. But you sometimes hear that by the people in the university system even. So if you're familiar with that phrase, that could be seen as part of a component to introduction of people and place. Luana?
Yeah, perfect. And voila, it's back up.
Voila.
Now, another thing we could do is we could be specific to the campus. So this would also be an opportunity to maybe introduce them to the mission of the college, the values, right? So we could be very at the micro level and talk specifically about some of the things that are important on our campus. So these are just different ways that, different things that we can include in the haʻi ʻōlelo, or the spoken part of the protocol. So again, oli, gotta be in there, haʻi ʻōlelo, and within that haʻi ʻōlelo, we want to introduce people and place. So I'm gonna now turn it over to Hōkū, a little bit about Kīpaepae at our college.
Yeah, so what does Kīpaepae look like at our college? Kīpaepae, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but Kīpaepae comes from our Hawaii Papaʻo initiatives. And Kīpaepae is one of the items that is how we will make our campus an indigenous serving campus. Kīpaepae is a ceremony for the introduction and transition into new spaces. We talked about that a little bit, malihini and kama'aina. It begins as a physical welcoming of an individual or individuals into a particular space, as well as nurturing the transition into new environments and new understanding, thus the introduction of people and place. The Kīpaepae anchors the relationship to its new environment. Encoded in the word Kīpaepae are the words ki, which means to direct focused energy, paepae, which is to provide sustained support, and pai, which means to reach the shore or to land. Through this definition of Kīpaepae, the individuals are recognized for reaching a particular place or a particular platform. and thus are being supported by a community in which all of their energies are focused and dedicated to the affirmation of coming ashore. We are an ocean people. Coming ashore and being welcomed when you come ashore is an important part of our culture. In reaching a newness and together physically and spiritually being reacquainted to one another, to the environment, to the space, and to the encompassing strength and vitality of the place. What it specifically looks like for us is currently being developed and will be implemented over time, but we will begin with including the following: sounds of awakening with pu, pu'ohe, and pahu. If you were at the chancellor's talks, he began with that, yeah, the sound of the pu and pahu. These are sounds of awakening. These are traditional sounds used to announce important events, arrival of important people, and the beginning of ceremonial times. Chants. We have done lau kanaka, and other chants of welcome could be used. Welcoming address, Haʻi ʻŌlelo, ʻōlelo noʻeau, or a simple speech of welcome, just like what Luana spoke of earlier. These will be given over the course of the next 2 semesters, and Luana will talk about what these might be next.
Ka'i, mahalo. Great. So this is where we want to extend an invitation to all of you. Now, Hoku and I, yeah, but that's the goal, is to get more people to be able to do this kind of welcoming, to do a kīpaepae, to understand what it is, and to be able to engage in these components that are part of kīpaepae. So what Hoku and I have done is put together kind of a training, yeah, over, as she said, the next 2 semesters, so that we can give you the tools that you need and the training that you need, the ike, the knowledge that you need to be able to engage in kīpaepae with us, right? And eventually without us. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. So the invitation: no prior knowledge is required. You don't have to speak Hawaiian. You don't have to know how to oli. You don't have to have any kind of prior experience or knowledge, because again, we are starting from the basic foundation. And our kuleana, Hoku and I, is to teach you, yeah, and to get you ma'a, so that you are comfortable doing these things. Oli, ha'i ʻōlelo, sharing an ʻōlelo noʻeau. Now, what does it require? An open mind and an open heart. If you come with an open mind and an open heart, that's all that you need to have, right? And we can take it from there. A willingness to learn and to participate, right? Yes, we're going to be hila at first, right? There is that shyness, that, oh, I gotta step out of my comfort zone perhaps a little bit when we do kīpaepae. But that's where Hoku and I are here to encourage, to give you, again, when you have those tools and you have the knowledge, it helps to be able to overcome some of that uneasy feeling, right? Having to step out of your comfort zone. So that's what's required, and that's what's not required, right? So no prior knowledge, no prior experience required, but come with an open mind and heart and a willingness to learn and participate. So I think now we're at the point where I think Hoku and I are both going to kind of do this next slide, I think. So today's topic was the introduction to protocol. So giving you just a general overview, and hopefully, what we've been able to do, our goal definitely was to calm the nerves and make it seem like, yeah, I can do that. I'm willing to give it a try. The next 2 sessions will focus on oli. So this is where we are going to learn just 2 chants. So we're going to, of course, lau kanaka will be part of that. And many of us already are somewhat familiar or perhaps very familiar with with lau kanaka. And then we will also teach an oli aloha, a greeting chant, a welcoming chant as well. That'll be the next 2 sessions. We will then do 3 sessions that help us with building our skills for Haʻi ʻŌlelo. So we'll do one that focuses in on Haʻi ʻŌlelo. We will do another that focuses on pilina, how we build relationships from a very Hawaiian perspective. And then we'll focus in on ʻōlelo noʻeau, learning some ʻōlelo noʻeau so that you kind of have a pool to choose from, right? When it's time to do the Kīpaepae, you have this kit, so to speak, right? This toolkit that will help you to be makoko to engage. Hōkū, do you want? Oh, and then the last part is our hope is to have a summer intensive learning session. So during the summer to be able to come together and have some intensive learning to really get us makoko to start to be able to do Kīpaepae. Who jump in at this point?
Sure. You know, I'm putting my kumu hat on. And for those of us who have ever taken hula before, putting the kumu hula hat on means that she's the boss, right? So what this means in this particular instance is I wanted to share, where does this Kīpaepae business come from? Yeah, this Kīpaepae, and it comes from our Hawaii Pāʻū. And currently on campus, I am also the Hawaii Pāʻū coordinator. And Hawaii Pāʻū is a system-wide initiative. So all 10 campuses, a system-wide initiative to make and help make the university system an indigenous serving institution. And you can go online and you can go in the university or just type in Hawaii Pāʻū and it gives you all that it is supposed to accomplish. But one of the goals says the university fosters and promotes Hawaiian culture and language at all its campuses. Thus, there are 3 thematic goals with objectives listed under each. The 3 goals are leadership development, community engagement, Hawaiian language and culture parity. The Kīpaepae initiative was designed and implemented by Dr. Taupori Tangaro of Hilo. The Kīpaepae series is one of the initiatives supported by Hawaii Pāʻū on our campus. Maui College's Kīpaepae series will cover these topics as Luana described over the next 2 semesters, then culminate in a summer intensive. So keep an eye out for the Kīpaepae announcement that Joyce is going to send to you. Our next 2 dates are November 16 and December 7. So keep an eye out if you want to put it on your calendar right now. November 16 and December 7 are our next 2 offerings. Luana?
Yes, my ka'i. Thank you for sharing the dates. I should have put that on the slides. So 11, 16, and 12, 7, those are really important ones because we'll be learning oli. We'll be teaching and learning oli. And so I really, I just want to encourage you, if you can make the time, they're both, these are Tuesdays and it will be at 1 p.m. I think we're going to follow the same time frame, day and time frame, to make it a little bit easier for your scheduling. So I'm hoping that you will all come back and join us for that and invite others. Now, again, you can jump in at any point, right? We also plan on having a Laulima site, which we're working on, where all of these materials will be uploaded. We're in the process of working on that. That way, if you missed a session, you can go to the Laulima Kīpaepae site You can access the video to watch the session. You can also access all of the documents with the words to the oli. We'll video ourselves chanting it. So you'll have audio, video, all of the different technological tools. We'll use those so that if you do miss, it'll be pretty easy, fairly easy for you to catch up. Also in each session, we'll do a little bit of review at the beginning of the session as well, so that if you missed, we kind of, can a little bit catch you up, right? So these are things that are in our plans as well that we're currently working on. I think the Laulima site will be very, very helpful. We hope to eventually turn this series into a virtual series that you can just like modules that you can take at your own pace, which will then help people to become more involved in the actual Kīpaepae when it's time to do a Kīpaepae. So those are some of the things that we have planned, we're excited about.
So you know what I say with this kind of stuff, yeah? Don't be scared now. Don't be scared now.
Mai maka'u. Yeah.
That it's something that, I don't know, I've never done this before. And I know you're the one that's always in the back row. I know. You're the guy that's always in the back row. Well, we're trying to make you in hula. We call this front row dancers. Yeah, we're trying to make you front row chanters so that you can be bold, be strong, be confident that what you're doing is to help transform a malihini into a kama'aina, to help to transform someone who is a guest to our campus to someone who feels comfortable and welcome in our campus. That's the goal. The goal is not to put you out front and everybody step back. Okay, right. The goal.
Not to see who can chant better. No, that's not the goal.
The goal is that we do it in order to be welcoming to our campus.
Yeah.
So, we have a squishy bit of time. Sorry.
I'm going to there were a few things in the chat box. So I wanted to acknowledge all of the comments about lawena that you grew up with, like don't cut your hair at night, don't cut your nails at night, right? So those were some of the things people were responding to and acknowledging some of the lawena they grew up with as well. And then also I want
always to kiss somebody. We've had to not do that lawena for a while because of COVID, but and for those of us who was raised to hug everybody you see, I swear, it felt funny. Yeah, it felt funny when our lawena could not be executed in the way that we are familiar. It felt funny for me, like it's like I'm sorry, because you're not able to do the behavior that you're accustomed to doing.
Yes, definitely. I have put the link to the Google Slides in the chat box. So if you want to save that, you can save that. Okay, and then there are a few questions. So we're going to open up for question and answer. And then there was a question about, for those who don't know the reason why, can you explain why you shouldn't cut your nails at night? So I can give a quick explanation, and Hoku, you can jump in. So one of the things in Hawaiian culture, we have something, what is called maunu, right? So there are certain parts of our body, like our fingernails, our hair, that contains great amounts of mana, our own personal mana. It is in our fingernails, is in our hair. And so we're very cautious in how we dispose of these things, right? And so some of the reason when it comes to night is because night is when the spirits are the most active. So that's some of the reasons why certain things are kapu at night, but particularly nails, hair, those kinds of things, the parts of our kino that contain this mana. We are not careless with that because we believe that others can then steal that mana, can take that mana from us, and even cause harm to fall upon us with this maunu. Maunu is a word kind of for, what would you say, bait? Would that be a good interpretation of the word maunu? Yeah, bait.
And nails and hair is because it doesn't disintegrate in time. Yeah, your nails and your hair does not disintegrate in time. So like Luana said, it maintains your mana forever because it does not disintegrate. Yeah, it doesn't disintegrate quickly. So it maintains your mana. And all of the things that she said is absolutely that, and that comes to, and so the other half of that is the whistling. The whistling is that you don't want to call those bad spirits to come to you. Yeah, so you don't want to call them or make noise so that they go, oh, there you are, and go to it. Oh, there they are.
And show up.
And show up, go to where you are. So that's part of the whistling, you know, as well. So and then the sweeping is that you don't want to sweep the good that is in your house out the door into the black and open night. Yeah. So even though you think you're sweeping rubbish, you're still sweeping what is in your house out into the dark and open night.
Yes. Yeah. Are there any other questions? You can either unmute and ask them, or you can put them in the chat box.
You know, some people might keep going. I'll just prattle on until somebody else has a question. You know, for some folks, it might seem like, what do they call that? They call it superstition. Yeah. But superstition is our beliefs that are not founded in fact. We know the rest of this is founded in fact. Yeah, so we believe deeply in spirituality. We believe deeply in the spirit that we have and we leave wherever we go. We believe in mana, that which is the life force within us. So even though it may seem like superstition to others, we do know that these things exist. Yeah, your mana, your life force, and that which surrounds you. Yeah, slaps.
I saw that, Diana. In the chat box, Diana said you get slaps as a kid if you did any of those things. And that's the whole thing. Like sometimes we don't even know why, right? What did
Stop
I do?
it.
Yeah.
Stop it. And eventually, so today we're thinking, well, how the heck were we supposed to know what this is all about? Before, when you're old enough, you would be given the pieces of information that you would need. At that current time, action is the only thing you needed to worry about. Action. But as you grow older and you mature, then the reasoning will happen. And I wanted to say this little thing. Not all Hawaiians believe this way. Yeah, not everyone, and I have to be honest with everyone. Not everyone was raised Hawaiian. Not every Hawaiian person was raised Hawaiian. Yeah, not every Hawaiian person was raised Hawaiian. So these awarenesses, these pieces of information is not held by everyone, because not everyone was raised Hawaiian. Luana and I were fortunate that we were raised in Hawaiian households. We had grandparents and great-grandparents and parents who believed in making sure that we knew who we are as a Hawaiian and what that means. And but not everyone was raised that way. Neither is everyone being raised that way even today. So know that this isn't all commonly held by everyone.
I think one of the oh, I'm sorry, was someone unmuting? Kalamai.
I was just gonna say another big lawena is you better kahi the bowl of poi. You don't, that's like a big big one when we grew up with, or you get the ko'o smacked across.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So kahi the bowl is when you take the hand and you go like this around the poi
Clean
bowl.
the edges.
Clean
Yeah.
the bowl. You
Yeah,
don't
clean
even
the edges.
Clean. Yeah. So
I
poi,
just
we could do a whole protocol,
on
1 hour on poi.
yes.
Poi.
I wanted to comment when you were talking, Hoku, about Kīpaepae and the word ki. I remember that in the Chinese language, the word qi, qi, means life and energy. So there are many cultures, ancient cultures, that have those concepts, and that popped into my head. So
Absolutely.
Very universal, that understanding of that life force. Yeah. My ka'i. I'll check the chat box again. I think we're good.
Aloha, cousin.
Hey, aloha.
I just wanted to make a short comment that this is so timely. Everyone around us in our homes, in our lives, in our workplace are so busy trying to follow, catch up, get this done. One day rolls into the 8th day of the week, but for, I think, reasons beyond anyone's understanding, you folks chose today to do this and to begin this. And you've put all of us together on this call. That's amazing. It's just amazing to have people come and actually be present. So you've already started this gift of Kīpaepae in bringing us together for one reason, not for judgment, not for what can I get for myself, but what can we do for one another. So I mahalo you. And if any of my gear up staff is here, so by the way, this is mandatory.
They're here.
Mark your calendars. Kumu
They're
spoke.
here.
Yep, I see you guys over there.
I love it.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, we appreciate that. Oh, Samantha, thank you so much. You do belong. You definitely belong. Yeah. And then there's one more question. When is it appropriate to engage in this format of Hawaiian protocol? Every day or special events? Yeah.
It can be done every day. It can be done every day. The outline of the protocol can be done formally or informally, as Luana said. But the whole idea of a prescribed way of behaving can be done every day. Special occasions kind of raise it to a little bit more formal level when there are special guests or special occasions. But the whole idea of Hawaiian behavior and calling out in an oli form or in an informal form to announce who you are, to introduce who you are. Luana did a fine job when she goes, "Oi, it's me, Luana. I came to visit." That's the whole protocol in 3 sentences. Yeah. You introduce, you call out, you oli, you introduce yourself, or you give a haʻi ʻōlelo, and then you say why you are here, and that can be your introduction of your appearance, yeah, of your time and place. So it can be done every day. It can be done in formal occasions. I must say, however, not everybody can do Hawaiian protocol, are accustomed to Hawaiian protocol. So what we have done in the past, and what we still often do, is if the malihini coming is not familiar with our Kīpaepae, we provide them with people that can help them navigate through the protocol, through the behaviors. We give them someone that can chant. We give them someone that can speak for them, can be a haʻi ʻōlelo, do the haʻi ʻōlelo for them. So we never make our guests feel less than. If they don't know, and we'll figure that out at the beginning. If they don't know, then we'll give them somebody to help them to navigate the other half of
I think that's really important, you know, in as we kind of close today is it's not a challenge. We're not challenging. And in some cultures, it does come across that way as more of a, you're challenging the malihini. In our culture, it is a welcoming, right? We go as far as to think about who these malihini are that are coming and what might be most welcoming for them, right? So we will plan the kīpaepae, plan the hoʻokipa. If we know that they have certain foods that they enjoy, we're going to bring that into the hoʻokipa, right? So we think about the malihini coming, how to make them feel welcomed, right? That's part of the kuleana as well. So hopefully, you will all join us for our next session on November 16th. And then again on December 7th, we'll have 3 sessions in the spring semester as well. We'll be sharing those dates in a little bit as well, in a few weeks. And on behalf of Hōkū and I, just again, mahalo to Joyce for helping us coordinate and put this together. Mahalo to each of you for joining us, for coming with an openness to learn, a willingness to listen, and to think about your role in Kīpaepae on our campus. And we hope this will not be the first and last time we see you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Aloha.